We're going to be running a nice little service walk sidewalk from this deck to this doorway. Do it with us right now. First things first, we're going to spray a mark out with marking paint. We're doing a radius here, and we're just marking real heavy on our line because we'll be using this line to show the homeowner, A, how it's going to look, and B, we're using it for layout, and C, we're going to be digging it out. We know exactly where we're going to. Here is the look we're looking to achieve. Now we need homeowner approval. They decided they want to move it in just a little bit on the backs, on the inside near the fence. So that's why you see two lines. Now we're using our rototiller. We're doing this to get all the grass up. First things first, we want to get rid of the grass. This is sod, so it's going to take a bit longer, as was with the other one on the property. So once we get all the grass up, we want to be able to reuse the dirt that we're going to be digging out here. We have somewhere else on the property we need to raise the grade, so that is the goal. That's what we're doing here. We're getting the grass off, getting rid of that, disposing that separately, and then we're digging out. The reason we're digging out is we want 6 inches, we want 2 inches of stone, and at least 4 inches of concrete. We're still fighting with this rototiller with this sod. Now we have it rototilled out, mostly dug out. Now we're using Lawan plywood for our forms. The reason we use Lawan is because it bends and we have multiple radiuses in this. You can't use your typical 2x4 form, so you buy a piece of Lawan, you cut it into 4-inch strips, and off you go. We used our rubberized expansion joint, which is nailed in there. Now we have Take Your Daughter to Work Day. We got Delaney helping us out. She's digging. She's doing her mightiest work here. It's always fun when she's on the job. She makes it extremely enjoyable. Anyway, back to work. As you can see, we're doing some fine tuning. We need to finish so that there's still a 7-inch rise step on the deck. Now we're bringing in our 3/4 inch clean stone. This will serve as our base. 3/4 inch clean has a 99% compaction ratio. It's perfect for this. Now I'm using my pins. My pins I put on both sides of the form to hold it completely in place until the concrete is poured. Once the concrete is poured, I remove the inside pins holding it because the concrete will replace that as strength holding it against the form. The outside must stay until the concrete is hard. Now I am putting my 6-foot level across, making sure that there's pitch, and also checking my height so I know how much concrete to order. Concrete next. Back to part 2. Delaney dumping some rock and yelling at me as usual. Now we're going to be pouring all of our concrete, completely setting it. We're putting our inside form in. We are finishing it off. Again, the forms are made of Lawan because they're easy to bend and we want nice radiuses on here. We got the pins holding it in. We rake the 3/4 clean stone back against it, and we have 2 inches of stone down in most areas, some a little bit more, and now we're ready to go. We will be pouring 4,000 PSI concrete today, reinforced with fiber mesh. We are pouring it, spreading it, and tamping it a bit as we go to make it easier as the process goes. We usually have one guy wheel, one guy setting it. Sometimes we do both. Now you can see we use just a rake as a jitterbug to get all the rocks down, cream to the top. Now we pull out our 6-foot level to span across because this is 5 foot in some areas. We're making sure of 2 things. One, the pitch is correct. We want the pitch running off this sidewalk but not towards the step, we want it off to the side, and making sure there's no air bubbles, pockets, or anything underneath, so that make sure there's no holes in the concrete that will hold water. Next, we take our magnesium float and we do our edger at the same time. The reason we're doing this is we're just getting down all the humps, bumps, and lumps, getting a bit of a smooth finish on, taking some of the roughness off, and the magnesium float brings the cream to the top. Now we let it sit. The depending of time we let it sit depends on variables. Variable is wind, sunlight, and temperature. What we need to do next is carve in. We use our blind joint to cut in our blind joints. This is how we split up our sidewalk. As you can see, we're going to be splitting it up into 3 sections today. Now that the sun has made it pretty stiff, it's time to take our steel trowel. We go over with our steel trowel or pull trowel, and we get out all lines entirely. There will be little lines you'll left from the mag float. You're knocking them out entirely. You want this completely flat so you can get your best finish on it. Now flat but with pitch, but you see here there's all those lines that were there are now gone. Now we get out our sponge float. We want a rough finish for traction purposes. Any outdoor concrete that's going to be walked on, you want to roughen it up. Usually you do this via a Fresno trowel or a sponge float or a broom float. And then we go back on after we sponge and we put our edging on all the way around. We do our edging and then we do our split edging. But first, we rub everything out with our sponge float. It actually makes a neat little finish and it's easy to do. Again, it's got to be mostly hard for this, and when doing it, you'll see some of the fibers come off onto the sponge. Here is our completed look today, guys. Thanks for watching our concrete service walk, and we'll have another video out tomorrow.